Alright, and welcome to Whiteboard Gematria, and let's get to it. Because the Matrix has you.
Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life, that there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. It is this feeling that has brought you to me. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Matrix.
Do you want to know what it is? The Matrix is everywhere. It is all around us. Even now, in this very room. You can see it when you look out your window or when you turn on your television. You can feel it when you go to work, when you go to church, when you pay your taxes. It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth.
What truth?
That you are a slave, Neo. Like everyone else, you were born into bondage, born into a prison that you cannot smell or taste or touch. A prison for your mind. What is the Matrix? Control.
The Kabbalah. All truly Dhammatic religions have issued from the Kabbalah and returned to it. All the Masonic associations owe it to their secrets and their symbols. The Matrix. What is it? It is control. Kabbalah. The system of control. And all the Masonic associations owe it to their secrets and their symbols, as stated by Albert Pike, the father of the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. What is Kabbalah then? It is a medieval and modern system of Jewish theosophy, mysticism, and thaumaturgy marked by belief in creation through emanation and a cipher method of interpreting Scripture. Theosophy is then the archaic wisdom religion, the esoteric doctrine once known in every ancient country having claims to civilization. Its doctrines, if seriously studied, call forth every hitherto dormant power for good in us, and also the perception of the true and the real as opposed to the false and the unreal. H.P. Blavatsky. The roots of the New Age. Helena Petrovna Blavatsky, an eccentric Russian woman who lived in a life of scandal and died amid accusations that she was a fraud, is better known as Madame Blavatsky or by her initials HPB. She might be called a godmother of the New Age movement, for when she landed in New York in 1872, she brought to the United States a knowledge of Eastern philosophy and religion and paved the way for contemporary transcendental meditation, Zen, Hare Krishna, yoga, vegetarianism, karma, and reincarnation, swamis, yogas, and gurus. As her biographer Marion Mead writes, in the decades after Blavatsky's death in 1891, it became trendy to ask, how's your karma today? In her book, The Secret Doctrine, she also wrote and taught, thus Lucifer, the spirit of the intellectual enlightenment and freedom of thought, is metaphorically the guiding beacon, which helps man to find his way through the rocks and sandbanks of life, for Lucifer is the logos in his highest and adversary in his lowest aspect, both of which are reflected in our ego. And continuing on in her vein, disciple of Blavatsky, Alice Bailey, mother of the New Age movement, and her plan to revitalize Christianity with theosophy. By her forming of the Lucius Trust Publishing Company, founded in 1920, which was actually founded originally as Lucifer Publishing Company by Alice and Foster Bailey, The Lucis Trust had consultative status with the Economic and Social Council of the United Nations, and the World Goodwill is recognized by the Department of Public Information at the United Nations as a non-governmental organization. Since their inception, Lucis Trust and World Goodwill have given their support through meditation, educational materials, and seminars by highlighting the importance of the UN's goals and activities as they represent the voice of the peoples and nations of the world, according to lucistrust.org. Alice Bailey is someone who has influence in the UN through this organization, and she also has not just influence, but great impact, as we can see here in one of her writings. And again, her writings were all, in the 40s and established in the early time period of the UN. And now we read in the preparatory period, as she wrote for the New World Order, there will be a steady and regulated disarmament. It will not be optional. No nation will be permitted to produce and organize any equipment for destructive purposes or to infringe the security of any other nation. And we actually see the UN has actually done this, and this was according to Alice Bailey as preparatory work for the making up of the New World Order. And we see on October 24th, 2020, the UN Nuclear Weapons Ban Treaty to enter into force. For the United Nations has confirmed that 50 countries have ratified a UN treaty to ban nuclear weapons, triggering its entry into force in 90 days. She also went on to explain the situation as far as her taking the knowledge, this esoteric ancient wisdom, the revealing of the mysteries that have been hidden for so long, out to the whole world. And she says, there is no question, therefore, that the work to be done with familiarizing the general public with the nature of the mysteries is of paramount importance at this time. These mysteries will be restored to outer expression through the medium of the Church and the Masonic fraternity. When the Great One comes with his disciples and initiates, we shall have the restoration of the mysteries and their esoteric presentation as a consequence of the first initiation. So through the Church, through the Masonic fraternity, there will be an initiation for the general public, according to Alice Bailey. Well, H.P. Blavatsky in Masonry, while some members of the Theosophical Society have concluded that H.P.B. herself was a Mason because she received in 1877 a certificate of membership. When we read here, it says there is no record of H.P. Blavatsky having been initiated into a lodge or of her attending lodge meetings. She did, however, preserve secrecy of what went on at lodge meetings. She further said that all students of Eastern esoteric knowledge were required to study the procedures of Masonry. In a note left by her, it is interesting to the effect that the members of the ES have become Masons or Odd Fellows. I have received from the Sovereign Grand Master General of the A&P Rite of England and Wales a diploma of the 32nd degree. So it is pretty interesting that Blavatsky is absolutely Mason friendly, and most likely a Mason herself, but being a female would have had to have had a very special degree bestowed upon her, but she was in this movement a very special person. So very interesting. So according to the Theosophy movement that is entangled with Freemasonry, which we hear from Blavatsky, which we hear from Bailey, and we hear from so we have basically the godfather of Freemasonry in Albert Pike, the godmother in Blavatsky, and the mother of the New Age movement. So we have all the major sources of this current movement acknowledging that they're working together to create a coming one world religion for the masses. And according to the King Solomon Lodge, number 54 in Digsby, Nova Scotia, Canada, it says, below is an overview of what is commonly known as the Blue Lodge degrees. The Blue Lodge is a fundamental body of Freemasonry. No other part of Masonry is accessible until one has received the 3 degrees of the Blue Lodge. Admission to membership in the lodge, as in any part of Masonry, is by petition. Freemasons do not recruit members. In some jurisdictions, they have been allowed at a very limited form of inquiry by a Mason to a friend who might be a good candidate as a Mason. However, a man who wishes to join the lodge must request a petition from a brother. So this is a free will offering choice. And the second degree, so I talked about the 3 degrees. Well, the second degree is a very interesting degree. So the candidate is encouraged to become educated in 7 liberal arts and sciences. This is the trivium and the quadrivium known in the Greek circles. Grammar, rhetoric, and logic are the arts of word. Arithmetic, geometry, astronomy, and music are the arts of the number. So it's very interesting when we take a look at these fundamental basics, because now we can take a look at what they were studying when they formed Freemasonry as a craft to understand where this system is originally coming from. Arithmetic, geometry, astronomy, music. This hidden mystery, according to their sources themselves, the mystery. For Revelation 17, verse 2, has a very interesting, we'll just continue on with what it's talking about, comparison to what we're saying. For the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. And I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast full of names of blasphemy. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. The Mystery, Babylon. Ancient Babylonians were the first to use geometry. So arithmetic, geometry, astronomy, music. Babylon the Great, the mystery religion, and Babylonians were the first to use geometry. Babylonian astronomy collated earlier observations and divinations into sets of Babylonian star charts. These star catalogs were written in cuneiform script. The Babylonians were the first people to apply myths of constellations and astrology. So astronomy and astrology and geometry. Geometry and astronomy. Mystery Babylon the Great. Babylonian mathematics, also known as Assyrio-Babylon mathematics, denotes the mathematics developed and practiced by the people of Mesopotamia from the days of the early Sumerians to the centuries following the fall of Babylon in 539 BC. Babylonian mathematics texts are plentiful and well edited with respect to the time they fell in 2 distinct groups, one from the Old Babylonian period, 1830 to 1531 BC, the other mainly Seleucid, from the last 3 or 4 centuries BC. With respect to content, there is scarcely any difference between the 2 groups of texts. Babylonian mathematics remained constant in character and content for nearly 2,000 years. So, it was written in contrast to scarcity of sources for Egyptian mathematics. Knowledge of Babylonian mathematics is derived from 400 clay tablets unearthed in 1850s, written in cuneiform script. Tablets were inscribed while the clay was moist and baked hard in an oven or by the heat of the sun. The majority of the recovered clay tablets date from 1800 to 1600 BC and covered topics that include fractions, algebra, quadratic and cubic equations, and the Pythagorean theorem. Mathematics, geometry, and astronomy. The Mystery Babylon. Assyrio-Chaldean Babylonian cuneiform numerals were written in cuneiform using a wedge-tipped reed stylus to make a mark on a soft clay tablet which would be exposed to the sun to harden to create a permanent record. The Babylonians, who were famous for their astronomical observations as well as their calculations, aided by their invention of the abacus, used a sexagesimal base 60 positional numeral system inherited either by the Sumerian or Abelat civilizations. So, what we actually see here is they have a 60 and cuneiform base sexagesimal numerical system. Numbers represented by symbols. The Chaldeans were ancient people who ruled Babylon from 625 to 539 BC. Therefore, this system is also known as the Babylonian numerology system. In this type of numerology, the single digits reveal the outer nature of a person, while double digits describe inner qualities of a person. How Chaldean and Babylonian numerology work? Well, gematria is an interesting thing, as it is a combination of the religious aspects, the scientific aspects, the mathematics, and they put it all together with this astronomy and astrology and geometry and numerology. So then it's all put together into that it now corresponds to people and places and things with names. And the first documented use of gematria is a form of Assyrian inscription dating to the 8th century BC, commissioned by Sargon II. In this inscription, Sargon II states the king built the wall of Khorsabad 16,283 cubits long to correspond to the numerical value of his name. Now that is a practice, and a very interesting practice, of swapping the letter for the value of its placement. And it was continued on as a tradition, as we can see here when it talked about Sargon, the Assyrian, so this Semitic, this Babylonian-inspired area was also where gematria is first cited. And it continued on in isosophy, which is a Greek form of this, where what they would do is, it was the practice of adding up the number values of the letters or a word to form a single number. So instead of each letter having a value adding up, each letter you would have a value and you would add them down to one single digit. So when we take a look at this, we get a Semitic language, and this one we're looking at Hebrew as it connects to the Theosophy movement, that it is a Jewish Theosophy belief system that is being tied with the Kabbalah. We look at the Hebrew alphabet, which is Semitic, and we can see here that the first two letters, we're just picking on those today, will be the Aleph and the Bet. And the Aleph represented is the number 1, and Bet the number 2, simply due to the placement of where they are in their letter line. We also see, it's very interesting, in the Greek, we get the alpha and the beta, also represented by the place as 1 and 2. So we can see that very interesting, the Aleph Bet, the alpha beta. And in the English, this also continues forward as we see the A and the B with a positioning of a 1 and a 2. And this just goes all the way forward. So your A, B, C, D, 1, 2, 3, all the way up to Z26. Now, it's a pretty interesting play on words here when we take a look at this. So when we speak, we can see a tradition all the way from the Semitic languages of Babylon to the Greek languages to English languages, hidden tradition amongst the ruling class. This letters and numbers system always transferring in the background all the way through those lineages, the Semitic, the Babylonian type line, the Greek line, and now even through the English line. And what's neat about it is when we take it and we listen, right, it's the Aleph Bet, it's the alphabet, the alpha beta. So they have this tracking system and number system in which they then are able to communicate with each other in a manner which is very easy if you understand this is going on. But if you had no idea this was going on, it would be hidden in plain sight without your knowledge. So that's why we take a look at these numbers. It's part of understanding the matrix we're in. So unlike in the English here, basic English ordinal, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to 26 with the ABC up to XYZ. With the Greek tradition, we take those letters and we reduce them down. So, for example, the XYZ, instead of X being the 24th letter, it's 2 plus 4 is 6, and so on and so forth. Or the Z being the 2, 6, the 26th letter, 2 plus 6. Then, because of the nature of the occult system, which is to do things forward and backwards, we reverse order. So the Z, Y, and the X become 1, 2, and 3, and the C, B, A becomes 24, 25, and 26. And simply as the reverse Greek order, we will also do the reverse full reduction. So we end up getting these numbers. So now this is where these numbers come from. This is why we're looking at the numbers, because this is part of the matrix they've created, which they, because they're aware of it, can move through it, having all this communication in plain sight without any knowledge. So again, one last time to look over this, we get the English ordinal, which here we see the word gematria equals 74. English ordinal is just ABC 1, 2, 3. Full reduction is ABC 1, 2, 3 reduced down to the single digit. Reverse ordinal 142 is just the ABC 1, 2, 3 backwards. And reverse full reduction is just ABC 1, 2, 3 reduced down to a single digit backwards. So if you want, you can go to gematrianator.com. This website is open for all, made by a gentleman named Derek. And again, thank you very much for your hard work and dedication.